The massive alien ships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system like giant metal whales swimming through the darkness of space. Their hulls were smooth and white, gleaming with strange lights that pulsed in patterns no human had ever seen before. The largest ship was 20 times bigger than anything Earth had ever built, and there were dozens of them floating in perfect formation. Inside the command ship, tall, blue-skinned beings with 4 arms moved gracefully across the bridge. Their leader, Commander Zalin, stood looking at a holographic display showing the small blue planet they had come to claim. His black eyes held no emotion as he studied the world that would soon belong to his people, the Vorthan Empire. "Report on the primitive world," Zalin commanded in a voice that sounded like wind through metal pipes. His second in command, a female named Kira, touched several glowing symbols on her control panel. Information flowed across the screens around them. The creatures call themselves humans. They use chemical rockets to barely reach their own moon. Their weapons are crude projectiles and simple nuclear devices. They still burn dead plants for energy. Zalin made a sound that might have been laughter. How disappointing. I was hoping for at least some entertainment. How long since we encountered a species this backward? 300 cycles, Commander. The last were the gelatin insects of the Outer Rim. They lasted for hours. The other officers on the bridge joined in what passed for Vorthan amusement. These humans would be even easier than the gelatins. The Empire had conquered 47 worlds without losing a single ship. Their energy shields could stop anything. These primitives might throw at them. Their weapons could turn mountains into dust. Why would a species that still used wheels and wings pose any threat? On Earth, deep beneath the city of Seoul, Dr. Kim Minho stared at the alien ships through his telescope display. The 38-year-old scientist had spent his entire career studying the stars, but he had never wanted to see anything like this. His hands shook as he adjusted the controls, trying to get a better look at the massive vessels. "They're not even trying to hide," whispered Captain Park Sola, the military officer assigned to watch over Minho's research team. She was a small woman with sharp eyes, who had spent 15 years in the Korean Space Defense Force. "Look at those formations. They're treating us like we're insects." Minho nodded slowly. Through his instruments, he could see that the alien ships had their defensive shields lowered. They were positioned in neat rows like they were on parade, not preparing for battle. The message was clear. These beings did not consider humanity worth the effort of proper military precautions.
Ow!
"Long do you think we have?" Sola asked. "Based on their movement patterns, maybe a week before they reach Earth orbit," Minho replied. "But they could be here in hours if they wanted. They're taking their time because they think we're helpless." The first alien message arrived 2 days later. It appeared simultaneously on every television, radio, and computer screen on Earth. The image showed Commander Zalon standing in what looked like a crystal palace. His forearms were spread wide in a gesture that seemed designed to show his superiority. "Primitive inhabitants of the third planet," Zalon began, his voice somehow speaking perfect English, Chinese, Korean, and every other human language at once. "You have been chosen to serve the Vorthan Empire. This is an honor that few species receive. You will surrender all military assets and prepare for integration into our civilization. You have 7 of your solar rotations to comply." The message continued for several minutes, explaining how humans would be relocated to work camps, where their resources would be harvested, and how their children would be raised to serve Vorthon interests. The tone was not cruel or angry. Was worse than that, it was bored. The commander spoke like someone reading a grocery list, as if conquering an entire world was just another routine task. President Kim Jisoo appeared on global television 6 hours later. She stood behind a podium in the Blue House, her face pale but determined. "Citizens of Earth," she began, "we have received the alien ultimatum. After consulting with world leaders and our best scientists, we have decided to accept their terms. Resistance would be futile against such advanced technology. We will begin preparing for peaceful integration immediately." The speech was broadcast across all human networks and transmitted toward the alien fleet. Within minutes, the Vorthan ships acknowledged the surrender with a brief message: "Your wisdom is noted. Prepare for occupation." But in the hidden bunker, beneath Seoul, Dr. Minho was not preparing for surrender. He was staring at data that made his heart race with possibility. 5 years ago, a small alien scout ship had crashed in the Pacific Ocean. The world's governments had kept it secret while teams of scientists studied the wreckage. Now that research might be humanity's only chance. The alien technology was incredibly advanced, but it had one critical flaw that the Vorthons had never considered. Their shields and weapons operated on fixed energy patterns, designed to counter other advanced civilizations. They had never encountered a species primitive enough to attack from directions. Their technology couldn't predict. Min smiled for the first time in days. The aliens thought humans were insects. Perhaps it was time to show them what insects could do when they swarmed. The surrender ceremony was set for 3 weeks later, giving the Vorthon fleet time to position themselves in Earth's orbit. During those weeks, human diplomats traveled back and forth to the alien ships, appearing frightened and eager to please their new masters. Ambassador Li Jina led these meetings, bowing deeply whenever she met with Commander Zaylan. "Your species shows good sense," Zaylan told her during one of their sessions aboard his flagship. "Many primitives waste time with foolish resistance. You understand your place in the universe." Jina kept her eyes down, her voice trembling. "We are honored that the great Vorthon Empire would accept us. We only wish to serve and learn from your wisdom." The Vorthon officers exchanged glances that clearly said they found human submission both expected and boring. What they did not notice was the small device hidden in Gina's diplomatic bag, or the way she carefully placed her hand on different surfaces throughout the ship during each visit. Dr. Young Nara, disguised as a cultural expert in Gina's team, used these visits to plant tiny sensors throughout the Vorthon vessels. The young scientists had spent months studying the alien technology from the crashed scout ship, learning how their systems worked. Each sensor was no bigger than a grain of rice, and the alien scanners dismissed them as harmless human trinkets. "Their shield generators are exactly where we predicted," Nara reported to the Secret Command Center after returning from her 5th visit to the alien fleet. "The frequency patterns match what we found in the wreckage. They haven't changed their technology in centuries." Back on Earth, the real work was happening in hidden facilities around the world. Colonel Choi Dae-ho coordinated the secret military preparations from a bunker beneath the mountains of North Korea. The gruff soldier had volunteered for this mission, knowing it would probably be his last. But he was determined to make it count. "Show me the satellite modifications." He ordered his technical team. Engineer Park Min-yuk pulled up the holographic displays showing Earth's communication satellites. "We've been upgrading them for the past 2 years, ever since we started studying the alien wreckage. The Vorthons see them as primitive communication devices, but we've turned each one into a weapon." The breakthrough had come when Dr. Minho discovered that Vorthon shields worked by rotating through different energy frequencies to block incoming attacks. It was an elegant system that could stop any conventional weapon, but it had one fatal weakness. The shields changed frequencies in a predictable pattern, and they couldn't adapt to attacks that existed in multiple quantum states at the same time. "Think of it like this," Minho explained to the assembled resistance leaders. "Their shields are like a lock that changes its combination every second. But we've figured out all the combinations, and we're going to attack with a key that fits all of them at once." The plan was called Operation Thunder, and it required perfect timing. Earth's satellites would be converted into quantum entanglement bombs, devices that could strike the alien ships from multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Vorthons had never encountered such technology because no advanced civilization had ever been desperate enough to build weapons that violated the normal rules of physics. Dr. Kong Yuna, the team's quantum physicist, worked 18-hour days to make the impossible possible. "We're essentially turning our entire satellite network into one massive weapon," she explained to President Kim Jisoo during a secret briefing. "Each satellite will create a quantum field that exists in superposition. When we activate them all at once, the alien shields won't know which frequency to block." The hardest part was keeping the secret. The Vorthons had sensors that could detect large energy buildups, so the satellite modifications had to be done gradually over many months. Teams of technicians worked in shifts, upgrading one satellite at a time while maintaining the appearance of normal operations. Captain Lim Jisoo led the fighter pilot training program, preparing for the second phase of the operation.
The quantum.
Bombs will hopefully take out most of their fleet, she told her pilots, but we have to be ready for whatever survives. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable than theirs, but their weapons are much more powerful. The pilots trained and modified spacecraft that had been rebuilt using alien technology. The ships looked crude compared to Vorthon vessels, but they were designed for one purpose: to get close enough to the enemy to do maximum damage before being destroyed. We're not trying to win a fair fight, Jisoo explained. We're trying to survive long enough to hurt them badly. Use every dirty trick you can think of. Ram their ships if you have to. They're used to fighting other civilized species who follow rules. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten a species that evolved from predators. As the days passed, the Vorthon fleet grew more confident. They positioned their ships in perfect formation around Earth, shields lowered, weapons powered down. Commander Zaylan spent his time planning the division of human resources and the construction of mining facilities. The integration should be complete within 2 cycles, he reported to the Vorthon High Command. The humans are cooperating fully. Some of them seem almost eager to serve. It's refreshing to encounter a species that recognizes superior evolution when they see it. What Zaylan didn't know was that Dr. Minho had just completed the final calibrations on the quantum entanglement network, like in 48 hours. The Vorthans would learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you completely underestimate. The day of surrender arrived with clear skies over Earth. 200 Vorthon ships hung in perfect formation above the planet, their white hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Commander Zaylan stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the preparations for what he expected to be a simple ceremony. The humans are gathering in their major cities as instructed, reported his communications officer. They appear ready to formally accept integration into the Empire. Zaylan nodded with satisfaction. The surrender would be broadcast across the galaxy as another example of Vorthon's superiority. Other primitive worlds would see this and surrender. Without resistance, saving the Empire time and resources. Opened all communication channels, Zaylan commanded. It is time to address our new subjects. His image appeared on every screen on Earth, from the largest television broadcasts to the smallest. Mobile phones. The four-armed alien leader stood tall and proud, his black eyes showing no warmth as he looked down at the human race. People of Earth, Zaylan began, his voice carrying that same bored tone he had used in his first message. Today marks the end of your primitive independence and the beginning of your service to a greater civilization. You should feel honored to join the 47 other worlds that serve the Vorthon Empire. In the secret command bunker beneath Seoul, Dr. Minho watched the alien broadcast with sweat running down his face. His hand rested on a simple red button that would activate Operation Thunder. Around him, the faces of Colonel Choi, Dr. Kang, and the other resistance leaders showed the same mixture of hope and terror. You're certain the calculations are correct? Asked General Baek Tae-ho, the highest-ranking military officer present. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed his worry. Certain as I can be, Minho replied. We've run the simulations 1,000 times. Their shield frequency patterns are exactly as we predicted from the crashed ship's data. On the screens. Zaylan continued his speech. Your leaders have shown wisdom in accepting the inevitable. Resistance would have been futile and costly. Now you will learn the benefits of serving a truly advanced civilization. The alien commander gestured to his officers, and the surrender document appeared on screens across Earth. It was written in the languages of every nation, outlining how humanity would be reorganized under Vorthon rule. Humans would be relocated to work camps. Their children would be raised in Vorthon education centers. Their resources would be harvested for the Empire's use. You have one of your time units to review and accept these terms, Zaylan announced, at precisely 14:30 in your Greenwich time zone. Your leaders will formally surrender all human military assets and governmental authority. Minho looked at the clock on the bunker wall. 14:27, 3 minutes until the moment they had planned for. Months. He took a deep breath and opened the communication channel to the resistance cells around the world. All stations. This is Thunder Command. Prepare for activation in 90 seconds. Across the globe, teams of scientists and technicians made final checks on their equipment. The quantum entanglement network was ready. Every satellite in Earth's orbit had been quietly converted into a weapon that the Vorthons could not detect or understand. 60 seconds, Minho announced. Above Earth, the Vorthon fleet maintained their ceremonial formation. Their shields were lowered to minimal power, their weapons offline. They had positioned themselves like ships at a parade, not vessels preparing for battle. The message was clear. These aliens considered humanity so primitive that they didn't even need to take basic precautions. 30 seconds. Commander Zalen checked his chronometer. Almost time for the formal surrender. He looked forward to reporting this easy victory to the High Command. Perhaps they would finally give him command of a more challenging sector where the primitive species might at least provide some entertainment. 10 seconds. All stations confirm ready status. The responses came in from around the world. Moscow ready, Beijing ready, New York ready, London ready. Each hidden facility reported that their quantum generators were online and synchronized. 4.3.2.1. Execute. Dr. Minho pressed the red button. Across the solar system, seemingly harmless communication satellites suddenly blazed to life with energy that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The quantum entanglement bombs activated as one, their exotic energy signatures completely invisible to Vorthon sensors until the moment they struck. The first wave hit the alien fleet like invisible lightning. 68 ships simply vanished in brilliant explosions as their shields failed to block attacks that came from every quantum state at once. The beautiful white holes cracked like eggshells before disappearing in clouds of superheated plasma. Commander, Zalen's flagship shook violently as the quantum wave washed over it. Emergency alarms screamed throughout the ship as systems failed and bulkheads buckled. The bridge filled with smoke and the smell of burning circuits. Damage report, Zalen shouted over the chaos. Sir, we've lost 68 ships in the first wave, his tactical officer reported, his voice shaking with disbelief. The attacks came from all vectors simultaneously. Our shields registered no incoming weapons until the moment of impact. Zalen stared at the tactical display showing the massive holes in his once perfect formation. More than a third of his fleet had been destroyed in seconds by weapons that shouldn't exist. Impossible, he whispered. These primitives don't have quantum technology. They barely understand nuclear fusion. Sir, the attacks are continuing. Whatever they're using, it's targeting our shield generators directly. For the first time in his long military career, Commander Zalen felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The surviving Vorthon ships scattered in panic as the second wave of quantum explosions tore through their formation. Commander, Zalen's flagship spun wildly as its navigation systems failed, sparks flying from control panels that had never malfunctioned before. All ships, retreat to defensive positions, Zalen commanded, his voice no longer carrying its usual arrogance. Raise shields to maximum power and prepare for. His words were cut short as another massive explosion lit up the space around them. The heavy cruiser Stellar Dominion broke apart like a child's toy, its crew of 300 vanishing in an instant. Sir, we're detecting small craft approaching from the planet's surface, reported the tactical officer. Dozens of them, moving at high speed. Zalen looked at the display, showing tiny human ships rising from Earth like a swarm of angry insects. The vessels were crude compared to Vorthon technology, with rough metal hulls and chemical engines that left trails of fire behind them. But they were fast. They were coming straight for his fleet. Major Yoon Seung led the first wave of human fighters, his modified spacecraft diving through the debris field left by the destroyed alien ships. The 32-year-old pilot had spent months training for this moment, knowing he would probably not survive it. All units, remember your training, he called over the communication system. We're used to fighting other civilized species who follow rules. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten a planet full of predators. The human fighters moved in ways that violated every principle of space combat the Vorthons had ever learned. Instead of maintaining safe distances and exchanging fire in organized formations, the primitive craft dove directly at the alien ships like meteors falling from the sky. "Impossible," shouted the Vorthon weapons officer aboard Zalen's flagship. "These creatures are using suicide attacks. No civilized species would sacrifice their pilots like this." Major Yoon's fighters screamed toward a Vorthon destroyer, its hull glowing red-hot from the speed of its approach. The alien ship's weapons tried to track the small craft, but the human pilot flew in wild spirals that made targeting impossible. "This is for Seoul," Yoon shouted as his fighters slammed into the destroyer's engine section. The explosion that followed sent shockwaves through the entire alien formation. Captain Lim Hannah led the second wave, her squadron of 12 fighters, attacking a Vorthon battleship from 6 different directions at once. The aliens had never encountered tactics like this. Their military doctrine was based on formal battles between organized fleets, not swarms of individual fighters willing to die to take down larger ships. "Target their shield generators," Hannah ordered her pilots. Dr. Nara's intelligence reports say they're located behind the blue lights on their hulls. The human fighters moved like a school of fish, each one following unpredictable patterns, while working together toward a common goal. When the Vorthons tried to lock onto one ship, 3 others would attack from different angles. When they concentrated their fire on a group of fighters, individual pilots would break formation and strike. At weak points, "These tactics make no sense," Zalen's science officer complained as he watched human fighters sacrifice themselves to damage alien vessels. "They're losing 3 ships to destroy one of ours. How is this profitable?" What the Vorthons didn't understand was that the humans weren't thinking about profit. They were thinking about survival. Every alien ship destroyed meant fewer weapons pointed at Earth. Every minute the battle continued was another minute for the planet's defenses to prepare for the next wave. Lieutenant Kim Do-yoon's fighter was hit by alien weapons fire, its left wing torn away by a plasma blast. Instead of retreating, he aimed his dying ship at the nearest Vorthon cruiser and pushed his engines to maximum power. "If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me," he muttered, fighting to keep control as his fighter spun toward the enemy vessel. The impact created a chain reaction that destroyed the cruiser's main power core. The explosion was so bright that it could be seen from Earth's surface, a new star appearing in the sky for just a moment before fading away. Colonel Choi watched the battle from the command bunker, his heart breaking as he saw pilot after pilot sacrifice themselves. These were his people, his soldiers, and they were dying to buy Earth a chance at survival. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet," reported the communications officer. "Put it through," Choi ordered. Commander Zalen's face appeared on the screen, and for the first time, the alien leader looked afraid. His perfect composure was gone, replaced by the wide-eyed stare of someone who had just realized they were not the apex predator they thought they were. "This is madness," Zalon shouted. "Civilized species don't fight like this. You're destroying yourselves along with us." Colonel Choi leaned forward, his scarred face showing no emotion. "We're not a civilized species, Commander. We're humans. We've been fighting wars since before your people discovered fire. You wanted to make us extinct. Now you get to learn what extinction looks like." The transmission cut off as another group of human fighters struck the alien flagship, their kamikaze attack sending shockwaves through the massive vessel. The tide of battle was turning, and the Vorthons were beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. The final battle took place near Jupiter, where the broken remains of the Vorthon fleet gathered for their last stand. Only 43 ships survived from the original 200. Their once-perfect hulls now scarred and blackened from human weapons. Commander Zalen stood on his damaged bridge, watching the red planet through cracked viewports. "Send an emergency transmission to the homeworld," he ordered, his voice barely a whisper. "Tell them we encountered something unexpected. These humans are not primitives. They are something else entirely." His communications officer, one of the few crew members still alive, worked frantically at the damaged console. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy readings from the inner solar system. The humans appear to be charging some kind of weapon. Far away on Earth, Dr. Minho prepared to activate the final phase of Operation Thunder. The quantum entanglement network had worked perfectly, but the surviving alien ships were too far away for the satellite weapons to reach. They needed something more powerful, something that would finish this war once and for all. "Are you ready to proceed with Phase 3? Asked General Beak, his face grim with the weight of what they were about to do. Minho nodded, his hand resting on a different control panel. "The resonance generators are online. We'll be using their own technology against them." Engineer Park Min-yook had made the final discovery that would end the war. Hidden within the alien technology from the crashed scout ship was the secret of Vorthan faster-than-light travel. Their ships used quantum drives that folded space-time to move between stars. Those same drives could be turned into weapons with the right frequency signal. "The resonance wave will take 12 minutes to reach Jupiter," Min-yook explained. "Once it hits their ships, their own FTL drives will become quantum singularities. They'll collapse into microscopic black holes." Dr. Kang Yuna checked her calculations. "One final time. The effect will be instantaneous once the wave reaches them. Every ship with an active quantum drive will be destroyed simultaneously." Commander Zalen watched his tactical display as more human ships appeared on the edge of the solar system. These weren't the crude fighters from the earlier battles. These were larger vessels, still primitive by Vorthon standards, but clearly built for war. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet," his communications officer reported. "Put it through," Zalen said, wondering what these impossible creatures would say next. The face that appeared on his screen belonged to Colonel Choi, the human military officer who had coordinated the resistance. The man's eyes held no anger, no hatred, just the cold determination of a soldier finishing a job. Commander Zalen Choi began, his voice calm and steady. "We tried to surrender. We offered to serve your empire peacefully. But you wouldn't accept that. You wanted to destroy our families, enslave our children, and strip mine our world?" Zalen found himself unable to speak. The human was right. The Vorthons had never considered peaceful coexistence. They had seen Earth as nothing more than resources to be harvested and lives to be used. "You made one mistake," Choi continued. "You assumed we were primitive because our technology was different from yours. But we're not primitive. We're adaptable, and we learn very quickly." On Earth, Dr. Minho activated the resonance generators. The signal began its journey through space, a wave of quantum energy that would turn the aliens' greatest, its technological achievement, into their final doom. The wave was invisible and undetectable by Vorthon sensors, traveling at the speed of light toward Jupiter. It carried with it the mathematical signature that would cause every quantum drive in the alien fleet to collapse into a singularity. "Minos Minnow," announced to the command center. "Then it's over." Commander Zalen felt his ship shudder as the human fleet approached, but something was wrong. Its instruments were detecting strange readings from the quantum drives throughout his fleet. "Sir, the FTL drives are showing unusual energy patterns," his science officer reported. "It's almost like they're resonating with some kind of external signal." Zalen's blood turned cold as he realized what was happening. Emergency shutdown of all quantum drives. Now, but it was too late. The resonance wave had already reached them. The first ship to collapse was the heavy cruiser Eternal Victory. Its quantum drive suddenly compressed into a point smaller than an atom, taking the entire vessel and its crew with it. The ship didn't explode, it simply ceased to exist, leaving only a tiny distortion in space-time that quickly faded away. One by one, the remaining ships of the Vorthon fleet followed the same fate. The quantum drives that had carried them across the galaxy became their graves, collapsing into microscopic black holes that evaporated almost instantly. "Commander." Zalen had time for one final thought as his flagship began to collapse around him. The humans hadn't just defeated the Vorthan Empire, they had done it using the Empire's own technology. It's turned against them by minds that thought in ways no Vorthon could comprehend. The last thing he saw was the tactical display showing empty. A space where his proud fleet had been just moments before, 200 ships and 30,000 crew members reduced to nothing more than quantum foam drifting in the void from Earth, Colonel Choi transmitted a final message on the same frequency the Vorthans had used for their ultimatum. This is Earth. We remember everything. We learn from everything. And we survive everything. Tell your empire that if they come here again, they'll get the same welcome. The war was over. The beings who had smirked at Earth's primitive civilization were now literally ash in the void.